They're coming to get you, Barbara.
4 years. 4 years, and it still seems everywhere you go there's a new piece of Frozen merchandise on the shelf. Elsa dolls, Sven chew toys, and Olaf underwear seem to be around every corner, in every store, in every town. Combine that with the fact that Let It Go is still charging through the internet like some sort of musical virus, and that a sequel may or may not be in the works, and it looks like Disney's 2013 animated film Frozen should by all means be considered a phenomenon. So, am I going to be hung by the neck atop a Disney castle by angry Olaf fans for saying that I don't think this film is a perfect film? Now, don't get me wrong. I still think that despite a few minor flaws, it is on the whole a great film, but does it truly deserve to be called flawless? Granted, any Disney classic could have its flaws if you look hard enough. Even my personal favorite Disney film, Beauty and the Beast, has a confusing timeline and various other nitpickish problems. I mean, did the witch punish an 11-year-old or 21-year-old? It never really adds up. The issue is whether or not these flaws ruin the experience of the film itself. And in Frozen's case, I do think there are some legitimate flaws that prevent me from calling it a masterpiece. Before I talk about what this film did wrong, let's talk about what this film did right. And it did a lot of things right. It's nice to see Disney enter a revisionist phase. This film does a really good job at scrutinizing and reevaluating the classic Disney formula. For example, the film starts off with two characters of the opposite sex meeting. They sing a song in classic Disney fashion which borders almost on parody of itself, and decide to get married in the span of 3 minutes. After a love song like that, it only makes sense that these two characters are obviously destined to be together and live happily ever after like Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, right? Actually, the film immediately raises the question of whether or not they're rushing their relationship, and if that's a good thing to do. It's nice to see one of these characters in the film actually display some form of common sense, and I enjoyed the stab at Disney's own cliches while also raising a good message to kids that really isn't addressed as much as it probably should be. In fact, a lot of the things the film does brings a great sense of originality to the Disney formula, while also playing within the realm of the familiar. It would have been easy to just go with the talking animal cliche that plagues kids' films these days, but Frozen is a little smarter than that. Instead, we have one of the characters doing the talking for the animal instead, bringing a sense of originality. Kristoff's dual personality that manifests itself in the form of Sven is wildly enjoyable and reinforces the fact that this is a man who really hasn't spent a lot of time around other human beings.
Yeah, people will beat you and curse you and cheat you. Every one of them's bad, except you.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
I also enjoyed that the comical relief character isn't just a character we meet on the journey who joins the group just to be the comic relief character. Olaf was a character who was going to make or break the film. If he was annoying and served no purpose to the overall story, then his presence would have severely crippled the remainder of the film. But thankfully, Olaf does get some of the best lines, and actually has a bit of history with the two lead characters, making his purpose have a little bit more weight and legitimacy. He's not just there to provide laughs, but to also showcase the innocence, and be a constant reminder of Anna and Elsa's childhood, which only leaves Anna to wonder where exactly did her relationship with her sister go wrong, and can it be revived. It's not hard to see why Olaf seems to be this film's breakout character. He is wildly enjoyable to watch. I'm also glad the romantic subplot in the film is put aside, and instead more screen time is given on the relationship with the sisters. That's where the heart of this movie is, possible pun intended, and it was a smart move to play the best cards they had. The relationship with the sisters is fantastic. Both are unique and have different character flaws that ground them and make them feel more real. One is a little bit more quirky and free-spirited, while also being a bit of an attention seeker, while the other is a bit more quiet, dignified, and reserved, but borders on the line of antisocial. Yet, both love each other, and showcase that love by fighting through their flaws together. The romantic stuff is still there, but it was nice to see a film choose to focus instead on the other non-traditional interpretations of love. That is, until every Disney film afterward tried to do the same damn thing. The animation and voice acting is also really fantastic. None of the actors' voices stand out, which is really great because that really brought the characters more to life and made them feel more legit. You're never aware that it's a performance, you just see these characters and their personalities shine. In a world where celebrity name power seems to be the big thing, this film does a good job allowing the casting to help the characters rather than the other way around. The animation is also top notch, but that's kind of expected with Disney. Alright, so now that I've brought up what I like about the film, can I talk about what I don't like? Well, too bad! I'm doing it anyway. For starters, the overall positions of the song throughout the film are really confusing and don't really follow a specific pace. The first half hour of the film has 5 different songs, yet the last half hour of the film has none. Almost like the creators forgot that the film is a musical. Perhaps I'm making this out to be a bigger problem than it actually is, but I find it almost ironic that the last song of the film is called Fixer Upper. With the other Disney classics, how much of the overall story was shown through song and how much was shown through script was a lot more balanced. Take a look at this chart I made. Notice how the opening half of the film is cluttered with songs, but the last half of the film is barren. Compare that to Beauty and the Beast, and you can see the difference is clear as day. Also, why was there no villain song? Would it really have been difficult to have the villain share his motivations with the dying hero through song as he extinguishes the fireplace and locks her in the room to die? At least it would have helped balance that song to story ratio a bit better, and thus help the pace of the film feel a lot more smooth and polished. Speaking of the villain, he comes off as very weak and underdeveloped. Disney recently seems to want to show that bad people can be anywhere, and usually come off as sweet or innocent. But this concept was handled a lot better in Wreck-It Ralph or even Zootopia than it was here. I applaud Disney for trying to escape the formula of having a purely evil or obvious bad guy, but I have to count this as a flaw. The sudden twist almost feels like it was tacked on at the last minute. That way, they could remove the character from the picture in order to focus on other developing storylines. Or, so that they could avoid a cliche love triangle story, which is certainly where it seemed to be heading towards before the big reveal. I see and understand what Disney was trying to accomplish with this character, but sometimes you have to show the audience a ticking time bomb to create tension, rather than just having it randomly go off in the middle of the movie.
Finish him!
This feels like the next step for Disney, and hopefully they can continue this winning streak Frozen has put them on. It's got a great message, some catchy songs, good developed characters, solid voice acting, and is really smart at avoiding, or at the very least being aware of, the classical Disney formula that it's trying to live up to. The only thing holding it back from being on par with some of the legendary Disney films of old was the confusing placements of songs and a mediocre and practically unneeded villain. Sure, it's not flawless, but it's still a charming little film that is sure to delight Disney fans, both young and old, and that's why I give it a 4 out of 5, a rating of mighty fine.